We're talking some WWE, and this past week on Monday Night Raw was the end of an era-ish. Just a break. It's Pat McAfee. Will move along from WWE for a few months as he goes back to his duties with ESPN and college football. And Brandon, was talking about the fact we were off air. A lot of fans seem to take umbrage to that fact of him taking time off. He says he's going to return in January when WWE moves over to Netflix, and SmackDown will already be on the USA Network. Yeah. So when he leaves, USA will know when he comes back. The WWE landscape much different. So my question, I guess, to you quickly: do you like the fact that this time around he's announced that he will be coming back? Because remember last year he left, and I think even the year before that left, and it was kind of a secret. Will he come back? Is he coming back? Should we expect him back? This time around, he kind of made it pretty clear that we'll expect him back in January. Do you like that? Do you wish it was more of a surprise? Do you like the fact that he's taking time off, period, for another job? Because some fans, like I said, take umbrage to that.
I don't. You know what? I think having somebody with the celebrity status of Pat McAfee that's a part of the WWE product in one way, shape, or form for, let's just say, 3/4 of the year, I think it's a good thing for WWE. And he brings added attention, added eyeballs. He also has his ESPN Pat McAfee show that's on every day, and they bring in a lot of WWE elements, superstars. They bring a lot of that stuff in, so it's creating more eyeballs and more traction, whether it's on television, social media, you name it, everything. That's what Pat McAfee does. So regardless of him leaving for a few months, I think he's good for the business. He's also very entertaining. Him and Michael Cole have a really good rapport, and I feel like I'm gonna miss that until January. And obviously I'm not gonna miss out on a Pat McAfee because I happen to watch College Game Day, and I know he'll be doing that for the next 4 months, 5 months. 4 months going into January. So I'll see Pat McAfee like I normally do. He also is bringing in Sheamus for College Game Day in Dublin coming up here. So I think Pat McAfee had a hand in that as well, which also creates a little bit more WWE exposure. So I think that's good for the business. And on the other side of it too, the commentary team is getting a little bit of a makeover too in the next couple weeks here. Former ESPN boxing, he's just a jack of all trades broadcaster and a great broadcaster, Joe Tessitore. So Tess is going to be joining the Raw brand on September 2nd. So I'm looking forward to seeing Tess. So there's going to be a little bit of a shakeup. I don't know what's going to happen with SmackDown. I haven't seen anything, but maybe you know something that I don't regarding the who's going to be with Michael Cole. But regardless, it'll be fine. Michael Cole is still the voice of WWE. Tessitore is going to do a great job with Graves on Raw. The WWE's in good hands. And then when Pat comes back in January, just in time for Netflix, it's going to be, I know Netflix is Raw. I get that. But having Pat McAfee back in WWE, working for WWE as Netflix is getting in the mix, I think it's a good thing for business.
So Michael Cole is going to move over to SmackDown. Joe Tessitore is going to be on Raw. I don't know. I'm trying to it's difficult of seeing who is going to be taking over for the time being, because Joe Tessitore doesn't come over until the 2nd of September, right? So on September 2nd, he comes over. He'll be joining Corey Graves, Yeah. According to this, it is saying that he's joining Corey Graves and Wade Barrett on SmackDown, but it's now been said, that he's going to be joining Raw as Cole is moving over to SmackDown.
Yeah.
So I guess my question is just what is it going to be? Tessitore and Corey Graves on Raw, and then it's going to be Wade Barrett and Michael Cole on SmackDown.
That's what it sounds like. I'm pretty sure from what I was reading, Graves and Tess will be Raw for sure. Cole's going to be on SmackDown, and I assumed Wade's going to probably fill in at least until Pat's back, and maybe he'll go back to Raw when Pat returns. That's the interesting part. Michael Cole's got one show, Tess has got one show. Corey Graves will be on Raw. I think the commentary side of things is going to be. I mean, I think it's been really good with Pat McAfee, but adding Joe Tessitore in there as well with the veteran Michael Cole, I think the announce crew hasn't. I think this has been some of the best since the premier days of JR and the King.
Yeah, and I'm curious because we still have a few shows before the second. So I'm gonna guess Corey Graves will be on Raw this upcoming Monday, with Michael Cole for the time being.
I bet you Michael Cole does double duty if I had to guess.
Michael Cole does double duty for the time being?
Why not? I mean, he's the voice of WWE. I mean, it makes too much sense.
Who's gonna be on Raw this upcoming Monday? That is the question now, that because McAfee's gone. So who's gonna be on Raw this upcoming Monday?
You know what? I could see Michael Cole and Corey Graves together.
Yeah, that's what I'm expecting on Monday. And then obviously when the main switch happens, and then they'll be switching again because it has been announced that on the inaugural episode on Netflix, Michael Cole and Pat McAfee will be back on Monday Night Raw in January. So we rarely do we have this knowledge of a switch and then knowledge of a future switch. Normally, they say this is the new thing, until,
Hey, you know what's safe though?
Otherwise.
Vic Joseph on NXT. I think we can guarantee that. So
Vic Joseph on NXT, and it's funny too because I was listening to Sirius Satellite Radio, Busted Open Radio, and they talk a lot about this stuff, and saying about Vic Joseph and Booker T is a team that should not be touched. And we all know Vic Joseph. He's been on the main brand before. He was the voice of Monday Night Raw. It's hard to believe. It's hard. You forget. There's some of these people, and I imagine there's going to be a YouTube video out there someday, like the forgotten voices of Raw. You know what I mean? Obviously up there with Adman Verk, Jimmy Smith, right? Vic Joseph, though, he was the one that announced that Raw and SmackDown and WrestleMania were all going to be happening from the Performance Center. He was the voice of Raw back then. It's crazy to believe, right? But and Byron Saxton used to be at the table.
Now he's going backstage, but
yes. But I think Vic Joseph right now should stay where he is. It's difficult because you don't want to stunt these people's growth. You don't want to say, "Hey, you're doing a great job. You're doing such a good job that you shouldn't be promoted." But that's essentially what we're saying. You're doing such a good job that you should not be promoted. But I guess
too, Vic Joseph. I feel like, I'm not Vic Joseph. I don't know Vic Joseph or anything by any means. But he might not complain about the fact that he's in the same city every week, just about.
Well, for now, and I guess that's another thing too, is if he feels like he's not getting that rub, kind of being at the Performance Center every single week and kind of getting stale, the fact that everyone's traveling the world and he's not. Well, the good news is NXT is going to hit the road when they hit CW in a month. They're going to Chicago and they're going to St. Louis. And CM Punk will be a part of that inaugural NXT show. Randy Orton will be a part of the one in St. Louis. So he's going to hit the road. We'll see how long that lasts for. I'm very curious because remember, even when NXT was the black and gold brand, they weren't hitting the road. They were at Full Sail every single week for the TV. Yes. Pay-per-views were on the road and in front of big crowds. But every weekly TV show was at Full Sail. So no matter where you talk, NXT has never really been on the road, with their product. They've been at Full Sail and they've been at the Performance Center. So it's curious because they're not going to small arenas. They're going to the big one in Chicago. They're going to the big one in St. Louis. Wondering what kind of crowds they're expecting to draw for their weekly TV show. But that's kind of a topic for another day. Yeah. TV is getting really interesting with WWE. That's the point. Not just television from the what we're used to watching, but from the actual production and the announce team. So Pat McAfee's moving on, and I couldn't agree with you more. Having him there at any point is great. And having him obviously have his daily show on ESPN in which he talks WWE, I mean, it sells itself. I mean, come on now. How could you not? I know personally, this is the truth. I know someone personally, my girlfriend's stepdad, who knows about WWE because of Pat McAfee, where he would know nothing about WWE.
That's the point, because there are people that I know that, they know that I do a wrestling podcast. They know I've been doing it for years. And they're like, I don't even know what anything it's about. And they're the same way. They're like, oh, I heard about this and this on Pat McAfee's show. So that's
Yes.
the point. That's the point.
He knows when I'm going to wrestling because of Pat McAfee. I will say He'll say, "Are you going to Philadelphia this weekend?" And I would say, "How did you know?" And he'd go, "Well, Pat McAfee's in Philadelphia for WrestleMania." Are you going to Cleveland for, like he knows these things, knows where I'm going because of that. So that's a positive. So no complaints about that. And in a future episode, we'll talk about WWE moving to Netflix and the fact that, Fanatics Fest this past weekend, they really honed that home. With all the WWE superstars as they're moving forward. And when one definite big takeaway, I'd say from Fanatics Fest, which is just a big autograph signing festival, nothing I'm interested in. No wrestling happened.
Yeah.
But WWE really made a name for themselves, essentially making it WWE Fest featuring other major stars. Because the fact that they were the ones who had sold out the meet and greets more than the athletes who were there. And athletes like Tom Brady, Derek Jeter, they were all there, and the WWE stars were the ones selling it out more than they were. So
what does that tell you?
Yes.
WWE is very, very mainstream. As much as whether you like it or not. I mean, just for example, I know this is probably a few weeks old at this point, but say his name and he appears. Joe Henry is everywhere. So I mean, that's just. I mean, he was at. I think they showed him at a Tampa Bay Rays venue. I believe. I don't know if it was a game or. Somebody put him up on the Tron or something. So it was like Joe Henry is everywhere right now. And here's the funny part. He's not even WWE main guy. He's in TNA that does NXT now. So, and by the way, he's going to be facing Ethan Page, All Ego himself, for the NXT Championship coming up too. So I'm excited to see if Joe Hendry can take care of some business and win the championship. That's for another day. We'll get to that at another point. But I guess that's the point, though. Wrestling is so mainstream that you're getting the WWE superstars with a bigger crowd and a bigger draw than some of the biggest names in sports. I will just say, a good friend of mine, he was down at the Fanatics Fest, and he's not a wrestling fan. I'll just put it out there. He's not a wrestling fan, but the wrestling stuff seemed to intrigue him because he kept sending me videos of some really cool stuff. So kudos to WWE for seemingly kicking the crap out of Fanatics Fest and doing a great job.